Okay, so we are going to be starting to add and subtract integers this week. So I can, or I know how to, represent integer addition with models using integer counters. So the first thing we need to talk about is what is an integer. Those are whole numbers and their opposites. And we did talk about those one time before, so hopefully this is sort of a review for you. Okay, so when you use integer chips, one color represents the positive and one color represents the negative. Usually you'll see yellow represent the positive and red represent the negative. Step 1, count the proper number of counters based on the add-ins. Step 2, you're going to eliminate the zero pairs. And then step 3, you get your answer. So here it is. This is the model right here of 3 plus negative 4. So here are our 3 additions. And then here are the 4 negatives. And we just look at those, how they are taken out like this and circled so that we can see that that is what we are taking away. And we end up with this 1 negative here. So step 3, you get 1 negative. So what is the sum of 3 plus negative 4? Well, you can see that you end up with 1 counter, so it's negative 1. How do zero pairs work? That's a great question. The additive inverse property states that the sum of a number and its opposite is 0. Since one positive counter equals plus 1 and one negative counter equals negative 1, so 1 plus the negative 1 equals 0. Step 3, the remaining counters represent the sum. So that was what we looked at here. Write an addition number sentence based on the model. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 negatives, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 positives. So it's going to look like negative 7 plus 4 equals negative 3. Then it says write an addition number sentence based on the model. So I have 2 negatives, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives. So basically what you're doing is you're just taking out the ones that match, and then you're left with those 3 positives, so it would be a positive 3. Okay, let's look at our next page. So this says I can represent integer addition with models, or I know how to represent integer addition with models using number lines. So we're going to be using some number lines today to help us with those models. Start at the first number. Draw a ray the length of the second number. Negative, you go left. Positive, you go right. The position of the ray's tip represents the sum. So wherever the end of the arrow is where you're going to find your answer. Okay, so it says negative 5 plus 7 equals 2. So here's my negative 5. We started here, and then we're going to the right 7 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so my answer is positive 2. Method 2. Start at 0. Draw a ray the length of the first number. Negative goes left, positive goes right. Draw a mark above the first integer, wherever that first integer is. Draw another ray the length of the second number. The position of the second ray's tip represents the sum. Okay, so let's look at this example. We have negative 4. So you can see it went from this 0 all the way to negative 4 plus 8. So then they added 8 to that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that equals a positive 4. And then they gave you some practice, and they kind of helped you with that. Write an addition sentence based on the model. -2, so they went from the 0, stopped at the -2, plus 5. So we start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my answer is 3. Okay, this time we have the addition of 2 negatives. So we're going to look at -2, but then we're adding a -1 to that, and that gives us -3. This is our next page. It says I can represent integer subtraction with models using integer counters. Or I know how to represent integer subtraction with models using integer counters. Now here is our first example. They said we've got a -4 plus 9. So here is my first one. I've got to go all the way to -4. And then I'm adding 9. So I'm going to start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it goes to the 5. So my answer would be the 5. Let's look at our next section. We have -2 minus 3. There's our -2. That's my step 1, which is here. -2. Step 2, it says -3. Okay, so I have -2 and then I have -3. I added 3 of those. Well, they added in some positives, the 0 pairs for this. So then step 3, we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 total. So that would be -5. Okay, so let's look at this again. Reminder, when you use integer counters, one color represents the positive. Usually we do yellow for that, and one color represents the negative, and that's red. Step 1, count out the proper number of counters based on the first number, also called the minuend. Step 2, add 0 pairs based on the number you need to take away. Step 3, take away the counters that represent the second number, also called the subtrahend. The remaining counters represent the difference. Okay, step 1. So you can see this, we have -3 minus the -2. This one's a little different. So we've got 1, 2, 3 of those. Step 2, I've got the 3 here. But then we have the -2 added in, and I've got my 0 pairs here. Since you need to take away -2 and add the plus for the 0 pairs. Okay, so then step 3 is going to give you your answer here. So -3. And you subtract the -2, you end up with the -1.